Hey, my name is Nick. I'm a physiotherapist with E3 Chiropractic and Wellness. Today we are going to be going through a few mobility requirements for a deep squat, as well as some drills and exercises you can do to help to improve the mobility of your deep squat. Working on these is going to help work on the efficiency as well as safety of a lot of different exercises you might be doing, including squatting, any sort of Olympic lifting, even air squats and things like that just get to be that much more efficient and that much easier on your body when the mobility requirements are there. So when we're talking about a deep squat, basically we're looking at a whole lot of things in your lower extremities. Starting at your hips have kind of the biggest requirements of a deep squat. There's a lot of a combination of movements kind of happening there. Obviously there's flexion or bending of your hip kind of upwards towards your midsection, but there is a combination of rotation happening there as well. We've got a lot of knee flexion and a lot of ankle dorsiflexion, so that's kind of how we're going to break it down. When it comes to the hips, there are a ton of different mobility exercises you can work on, so we're going to go through two really big bang for your buck exercises. One exercise that I really like that stretches out a lot of the internal compartments of the hip and help it just to sit a little bit better in that position is a 90-90 position. And so what that means is your front leg and your back leg both are creating a 90-degree angle. So we have two 90-degree angles or two boxes happening here. This is an awesome position because when you lean forward, you can get an external rotation stretch on the front leg. And when you lean backwards and think about dropping your hip down towards the ground, you get the opposite internal rotation stretch on the back side. So it's a great way of getting two different stretches in the same position. And so in this position, what I like to do is lean forward for about a minute, 2 minutes to really get that deep external rotation stretch on the front side. I'll do the same amount of time kind of going backwards to get this internal rotation stretch. I'm feeling that stretch a little bit more on the front side of my hip into the tensor fasciae lata muscle. And then what I'll do is I'll flip that on over. So I'll kind of move everything over to the opposite side. Same thing, get into that 90-90. You can lean forward for that external rotation stretch on the front side, and then leaning backwards for that internal rotation stretch on the back side, really trying to loosen off both areas of those hips. Another common area that can get you much more depth in your squat is the groin. And so loosening off kind of the inside of the hip muscles can be a really, really awesome way to improve the mobility of your squats as well. One position that I really like for that is on all fours, sticking one leg out to the side into a little bit of a straddle position here, half straddle. And so from here, you can kind of sink your hips forwards or backwards, whatever position feels the most comfortable for you. So really feeling that stretch kind of down into the side that you're elongating there. And same thing here, holding that for about a minute or 2 minutes, enough that you start to feel a little bit of relaxation happening on the inside of your thigh there. So those are just a few good kind of hip stretches to kind of work on the mobility of the hips. The next component is the knees. I find a lot less people have issues with their knees unless they have an actual injury that's happening there. If you ever are noticing pain in the knees, it's great to go have them assessed and make sure that other stuff is working well enough, because we don't want to be stretching into pain or discomfort too much. As far as the knees go, one position that I find can be really helpful for people with relatively good knees is basically just a seated kind of kneel position. So you're getting that maximum amount of flexion through the knees. If you are feeling a little bit of a stretch or a little bit of pressure, that's totally fine and totally normal. If it starts to be painful, or if you notice that is getting worse the longer you hold this, same thing. You want to make sure that you're getting that assessed and checked out. Same as the other stretches, hanging out here for a little bit of time, maybe a minute, 2 minutes, can be an awesome way of just getting that flexion or that bending going through your knees. The last area we're going to take a look at is the ankle. And so this is another kind of commonly stiff area on people that I think affects their deep squat more than they realize. When we're talking about ankle dorsiflexion, we're talking about the ability for the knees to get over the toes with the ankle staying on the ground. So we're talking about closing this angle down. This position that I'm in right now, so kind of in like a half kneeling position, can be a great way of working on that ankle dorsiflexion. So basically what I'm going to do is use my body weight to help push my knee over top of my toes. I feel a little bit of tension on the front side here. Some people might feel it a little bit more on the back side, but basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to stretch that joint out a little bit more. So if you have some mobility issues in your calf, you might feel that in your calf. If you're getting more of a joint restriction, that's a little bit more where people will feel it on the front side. Same thing here. If you're getting pinching or sharp pain, you don't want to push into this too much. But if it feels more like a deep, dull ache, that's okay as long as that's not getting worse as you go. With this one, I find it can be helpful as well to use a weight over top of your knee to really push that knee and help to get that stretch a little bit more. But same thing, we want that to be kind of a mild discomfort and not painful. With this one as well, about a minute, 2-minute hold is plenty. If it needs to be a little bit less than that, or if you're finding that it's a little bit too uncomfortable to hold it for that amount of time, it's okay to pulse in and out of that gently. So just kind of moving into the stretch and out of that stretch just to kind of help mobilize that ankle a little bit better. With that all being said, another great exercise is basically throwing it all together. So using a little bit of support or using a wall if you need to, but even just spending time in a deep squat position, as long as you're not having too much pain or you're not falling out of it, can be a great way of same thing, just kind of working on that same position, getting a little bit more comfortable down here. And yeah, stretching out all the joints kind of at the same time.